My name is Anthony. I'm an alcoholic. I'd like to thank God for my life, and man, it's such an honor to be here. I mean, Keith Thomas, y'all, and Ruth. That was awesome, Ruth. You know, welcome to anyone that is new. Welcome to our visitors from Chino. Wow, I got people coming to see me from Chino. Oh, shoot. You know, it's, you know, this is a tough day for me because this is my little sister's birthday today, July 9th. She died from complications with HIV and AIDS. And, you know, she was my little baby sister, you know what I mean? And this is real tough for me today, you know. But you know, it's funny. I didn't even look at the the date until the other about a week ago. We were in the meeting, and I saw it was July 9th, you know, because it's also my daughter's birthday, you know, and so now I got to call my daughter. You know, our book tells us to share in a general way what it was like, what happened, and what it was like now. You know, what happened. You know, I had some really good parents, man. I had a mother who was tough. You know, she grew up in Boyle Heights. You know, I have a stepdad that grew up in Memphis, Tennessee. And they were good people. He was in the Air Force. My mother was she worked for the state of Nevada for like 15 years, went back to school, got her teaching degree. She taught special needs kids. You know, they were, like I said, they were good parents. We lived everywhere, you know, Pops being in the Air Force. We lived halfway across the world, you know. Here I am, a kid from South Central LA. I moved to Kaiserslautern, Germany at 9 years old, you know, and it was a serious culture shock. You know, here I am, this little black kid who was already crawling in his skin, you know what I mean? I feel like there was something wrong early. Well before alcohol. Our book talks about it. You know, I was a kid who loved 70s rock and roll. I was a geek. I loved comic books. I had thousands and thousands of comic books. I was a dreamer. You know, at that time I loved to read. You know. I hated school, you know, and, you know, I never forget the statement that this teacher wrote to my parents, and my father used it against me almost every day till the day he died. And the teacher said, if Anthony would only buckle down. I'm like, buckle down? And my father used that for years. You know, he said, and he would always say, if you would just buckle down, if you would just, and I'm like, why is he using her words? So, you know, the fast forward, you know, we moved from Kaiserslautern, Germany to Philadelphia, Memphis, Tennessee, Arkansas, then we land in Vegas, you know, and we were out, my father was stationed out here at Nellis Air Force Base. And it was here, I never heard of, you know, the type of drugs that were going on in the 80s at that time. I never heard of that you know, that hard rock alcohol that they talked about all the time. And I never heard of that stuff. You know, I was a sheltered kid. You know, I was always on punishment. I was one of those kids. I was always on punishment. I couldn't go nowhere, you know. I wasn't getting nothing for Christmas, you know, and You know, I was mannish, you know. As my grandmother would say, "You so mannish," you know. "You heathen," you know. That's what she used to call me, a heathen, you know. Anonymous warning, right? So, you know, we moved here. I was in high school. I moved here when I was in the 9th grade. My little sister was junior high. And when I came here, it was really different. You know, I was an athlete. You know, I ran track, played football. But I was still, you know, a little geeky. You know what I mean? I didn't do too well with the girls, you know, and then I discovered alcohol at a party. At a high school party that my mother told me I can't go to, and I snuck out and went anyway. And I got really, really drunk. Really, really drunk. Throwing up all over the place. Oh yeah, I was a puker, you know. Yeah, every time I drink, I puke. You know, I was one of those guys. Couldn't handle his liquor. But I thought I was a tough guy, you know. So, you know, to fast forward even more, you know, I barely graduate high school. I'm on my way to a junior college near San Diego called Merced City College. And I never make it. I never made it. They sent me the paperwork. I was ready to go. You know, I'm a 3-time state champion in Las Vegas. I went to Rancho High School, you know, and I didn't make it. You know, I was afraid. I'm gonna be honest with you. I was afraid. I talked myself out of it, you know, and then I drank over it for a lot of years, you know. To fast forward even more, so I get to, you know, I don't graduate. My parents are angry. You know, they throw me out of the house one more again. And, you know, I hook up with some folks, you know, and I just commenced the partying. You know, I'm 19 years old, out of high school. Really, to tell you the truth, nowhere to go. Luckily, I had a car, because I had very good parents. You know, I had a car, I had a decent little job, you know, and I moved in with this guy and this chick. Big mistake. And I just ran through everyone, you know, and then they threw me out. I go back home and I get myself together. You know, my mom says, okay, we got to do this, and this, you know. And so I got myself together, you know, and I got a better job and got a new place, because my father told me, he says, well, we're getting ready to move out of base housing. And they bought a house right here down the street from this church, actually. And he said, you can't come. We're tired of you. You know, you got to go. And so, you know, I moved on Bonanza and Martin Luther King, you know, and these little apartments. And I just went nuts. I had an uncle who was a tyrant. He was a tyrant. And I was older than my uncle. And, you know, we would run this town ragged, you know, shooting, and I mean, we were retarded. And, you know, brief story about him, he ended up going to prison for life. He got really, really drunk and he murdered his wife. And this is the road that I was on. I just want to, you know, paint this story for you, you know. And you know, to fast forward even more, you know, I get into the casino business. You know, I was in the casino business at 19 years old. I was a busser, you know, food runner, and I ended up going to dealer school and becoming a dice dealer. And I dealt dice, you know, I went to school to deal dice, and got into this one casino, started working, and they taught me blackjack and roulette. And You know, I became a floorman, pit boss. I did all the things. Got married, had kids, destroyed the marriage. It was her fault though. If she would only, right? I destroyed my marriage. I had 4 kids, 2 girls, 2 boys. I got custody of these babies. How I got custody, I do not know. I got introduced to this program through my ex-wife. She went up on the mountain, that rehab on the mountain for West Care. And I remember going to visit her because they brought her down off the mountain, and I was leaning up this wall of this other place called the Samaritan House. And I'm sitting there, the place was wild. People were walking and talking to themselves, and I mean, it was nuts. People were up under this tree, waiting to go into West Care, and, today we call that the Tree of Hope, and I was leaning up against the wall, judging everyone. These bums, if they just get a job, right? Not knowing that here's my other anonymous warning. So fast forward. So now I go on a tangent, and by this time I can't keep a job. My kids and I were living with my grandmother. Actually, we were leeching off my grandmother. That's what Keith and the guys used to tell me. You ain't living with your grandmother. You're leeching off your grandmother. And, I took offense to that, My grandmother would pull me out of crack houses, begging me for the EBT card. I'm sorry, guys, this is part of my story. I'm sorry, I gotta tell this part. And she would pull me out of these places and dragging my kids in tow. My kids had to see this. They're too young to remember today, but she was dragging them in tow. She had one of my aunts with her, and I got in the car with my aunt, and she said, "Aunt, man, this looks really bad. This looks bad." Because I was stuck over there on alphabet streets, D Street, A Street, J Street, the alphabets, my favorite place. I remember as a kid saying I hated the West Side. My family made a lot of money off the West Side. My grandfather owned apartment buildings and a lot of real estate over there. He still has a house over there, And I ended up over there in zombie land, because that's what I used to call it. So I became one of the zombies, you know what I mean? So I never forget, I sold my shoes, because I needed another one. Sold the shoes right off my foot to a 16-year-old girl, and she threw what I wanted on the ground, and I picked it up, and I convinced her to doing what we do. Once again, I'm incomprehensible demoralization, man. But the thought came. I remembered West Care. So me with, on my feet all night, all day, my feet were burning. And I was walking up Las Vegas Boulevard to get to West Care. And I ended up at West Care, and I was sitting in the office, and the lady told me there was no more beds. She says, "No more beds available." And I says, "I'm not going anywhere," because I was tired. Wasn't ready, but I was tired. I knew nothing about sobriety or recovery, but I was tired. My feet hurt. I had blisters on my feet. I looked bad. Ruckus in the back happened. Just look at God. Ruckus in that back happened, and somebody got thrown out. Guess what? A bed came available. So I'm laying in that bed, and I'm so grateful, and I'm in all my stuff, because I gave away everything. you know. Only thing was left was those kids, you know, and something happened. You know, I was laying in that bed, and I got ungrateful quick. Really ungrateful. Why am I here? What am I doing here? I still had a job, still had a car. Barely had a place to live, you know. And someone told me, you know, because you can only stay in Westcare for 7 days. So I stayed the whole 7 days. Guess what? I even became ramrod. So now I'm telling people what to do. I'm trying to find some power. I want some power. I'm tired of getting what I'm giving myself. And I'm not even realizing that I'm tired of giving myself what I'm giving myself. My spirit is just sick. I have this malady, this thing that's going on with me, and I didn't care how I got it, what kind of power. I didn't care. Whatever was going to make me feel better. You know, ramrod, oh, great. You know, I get to tell somebody what to do. 7 days come up, you know, and I forgot that I had to pick some shoes out of the bin, you know, because I had given my shoes away. I didn't lose them, I gave them away. I didn't lose my furniture, I gave it away. I sold it right out of the back of my U-Haul, all my furniture. It all must go. Come get this, right? So I go over to the Samaritan house, and you know, this is what they told me to tell the guy. They said, don't tell him you're an addict. I was like, what? They said, tell him you're an alcoholic. I ain't no alcoholic. You know, not understanding that I drank myself into this place. I ain't no alcoholic. I'm an addict. I'm wearing it like a badge of honor. I'm an addict. You know. So I go over there and, you know, I tell him all this stuff, you know, and he's sitting there with that face. That face. You know the face. It's the face that mom gives you. It's the face that grandma gives you. The kids. That lip in the air. When people are tired of you. Tired of what you're giving them. When, you know, that frothy emotional pill. He's such a good boy. He has a great job. Drives a nice car. Makes a lot of money. If he would just. Frothy emotional pill. Seldom suffices. You know, I had to hear something that had depth and weight. So I went to the Samaritan house not knowing that I was going to hear some things in this place. Because, see, I just wanted to lay my head down, you know, just to get the heat off so I could go back to grandma's and keep doing what I was doing. Because I didn't see no other way out. That was my solution. My solution was to get drunk. It was to tear your life apart. That's what I did. I'd get girlfriends, I'd tear their life apart. And then I wonder why they, you know, throw me out. Why you throwing me out? I went over to the Samaritan house and they put me in a house, in a room with 40 other men. It smelled so bad. Oh my God. But when I thought about it, it was me that was smelled. Yeah. I hadn't took a shower, you know. Guy told me, you need to go take a shower, bro. And I met this guy, his name was Garland, and I love Garland. I miss him a lot. His name was Garland Pike. I know Keith remembers him, and that man saved my life. You know, he would tell me things like, you don't deserve your kids. You don't deserve them. They don't deserve what you're giving them. You need to give them away. I'm looking at this guy like, who does this guy think he is? You're the house manager. But he's telling me the truth. He's telling me the truth. Then I watched these other cats come in, and I was angry. Keith said it. I was angry, didn't even know what I was angry about. Why am I so angry? You know? I am learning today that my spirit was yearning something. It wasn't anger. It just, I didn't know how to express it. So I expressed it through anger and resentment and look at these guys judging. You know, I didn't. And I remember, I remember these guys coming in and having a good time, just laughing and slapping five and crumbing on us. And I was sitting in the back and this guy, and I had been in the house for a little while, and this old man came back there and he says, you know, the winners sit up front. I'm like, who's this guy? You know, his name was Dick Toussaint. And called me dummy, you know. I'm like, God, you know, they're just beating me up, you know. I remember running out to the car crying to my mom. And I met this lady by the name of Millie Lee. Millie Lee. And she was my first sponsor. I still have my job, so I still have my hole in the arm Armani suit because I had wore it out, but it was an Armani suit, y'all. You know, I'm a dressed up trash can. Burning on the inside, just not understanding what's going on in here, inside. Not understanding that my spirit is yearning something. I still don't know what it is. You know, I've sat in a couple meetings with you. I'm not impressed. You know, and then you pass the basket. I'm really not impressed. And I knock on this lady's door, man, and I remember I had a Bible because my grandmother and her husband used to have a church, so now they have church at home, and we pray all day, every day, 3 times a day, 4 times. Not knowing that they were trying to teach me this prayer thing that you guys taught me. See, I already had it. I already had all this stuff here. I already had it. And I just, you know, I didn't want it. I didn't want it because it wasn't what I wanted. So I go to this lady's house and she says, I see you have a Bible there, baby. She was from Alabama. And I said, yep. And she says, give me that Bible. She took it, she read something out of James, put it down, and commenced to opening up the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, the thing that saved my life. The first place she went to was the doctor's opinion. And she proceeded to explain what was going on with me. She explained the problem to me. And it sounded like, you know, I didn't understand this phenomenon of craving, the obsession of the mind, you know, the allergy, you know. I didn't understand none of that stuff. I just couldn't compute it. So I went back out, you know, and she told me a couple things about myself, you know, and she hurt my feelings. Hurt my feelings, aw. That's what I do with my grandkids now, aw. They think I'm such a tyrant. But, you know, so, you know, I went back out. I commenced doing that for a few years because I came into the rooms in 1999. I didn't get sober till 2003. And when I came in this last time, I got this, Millie took me as far as she could take me. She said, now I have to throw you to the men. And she said, you need to go find a sponsor. So I went and found this little guy, found the littlest guy in the thing, you know. Because, like I said, it was all about power for me. Come on, y'all. Come to find out the guy's an Olympic wrestler. Nicest man you could ever meet, this tall. He lives right over here. You know, he'd take me to his house, you know, he'd spoon feed me this book. You know, at the time, you know, I wasn't reading too well. I've been out there in the streets for a long time, y'all. And it wasn't that that I didn't know how to read is I stopped practicing. Y'all hear that? I stopped practicing. There it is. So once I started, hanging out with this guy and he started teaching me the program. I started going to book studies. I started, doing some things and they told me not to get married, or they told me not to get in a relationship, so I got married. Met this girl, man, I'll see her at a meeting and who's that, and here we are 21 years later. We're getting ready to take 22 years of marriage. 22 years of marriage. Because let me tell you something, Millie Lee told me this. She said, if it isn't in a book, it's bullcrap. She says, I want you to get into a relationship. I want it to go bad because maybe you might come back here and get into this work. And I got to tell you, we live actually right down the street here. We got married right here on the hill. Right here, me and that woman, we got married on the hill. She brought 3 kids. I brought 4. And now here we are, we're a blended family. One of her kids live with her parents because she's one of us, I'm not going to tell her story. And, all my kids live with me, and one of her kids live with us. And I think her oldest daughter was already gone. She had kids and was out of the picture, right? And here we are, we're this blended family. And I was in the casino business, and I was told to try something different. Try something different. That was my sponsor. He says, man, you need to get a casino a break. Because I couldn't stay sober. I could not stay sober going back to that casino. Because I get things back that quick. Get it back. Get money in my pocket. Pockets get fat again. Ego comes, Here we go, egoism, So I tried this thing called ironwork. And I'm a union ironworker by trade, and I did that for 20-some years. And because of you guys, I'm semi-retired now. And awesome trip. I got to tell you guys, awesome trip. It was one of those things that gave me some power. Because I got to tell you, I didn't find this God yet. I thought I did. But that thing gave me some power because, I'm running around on beams and beams this small. I'm walking beams, I'm climbing columns, I'm fighting, and we're having a good time, making money, I lose my parents. The first person I lost at 2 years was my mother. I lost my mother to cancer. And after that, and I got to tell you guys, Alcoholics Anonymous showed up. I never even told these guys that my mother, had passed. And all those old cats showed up to my mother's funeral. Go figure. Alcoholics Anonymous showed up and showed out. I was amazed. How they say you'll be amazed before you're halfway through. I was amazed. Okay. And then I lost my stepdad. And my mother, before she passed away, told me to get a relationship with my biological. And I fought it. And a cat by the name of Sheldon F., I was buying a car from him, and I was complaining, I gotta go meet my father. And Sheldon was like, come on, man. And I was like, he was never in my life. He says, you were in your kid's life, and look what you did to them. He was never in your life. My father was a heroin addict for a lot of years. Imagine how I would have turned out if he would have been in my life. Wow. So I went and met the guy. It's not like I hadn't met him before. We conversated, but it was like I always handled him like this. So And at the same time, that's when I found out the diagnosis of my little sister, the one that passed recently. And so, and I got to tell you guys this story. So, you know, and getting this relationship with my father, you know, he got real sick, and he lived in LA. He lived off of 63rd and Bryanhurst, right off of Crenshaw Boulevard, Rolling 60 neighborhood. And every time there was a shooting, they shut the place down, and he would go to the vet, you know, to go get his meds and get his checkups. He'd come back, and the whole neighborhood would be shut down, and he'd be sitting out there waiting to get back into the neighborhood, right? So we moved him to West Covina. And while living in West Covina, he was sitting at a bus stop. He was talking to a young lady. And that young lady happened to be his daughter. Because he was sitting there talking to her, and he's telling me this story. He was like, Aunt, man, we were sitting there talking, and we had such a nice conversation, but I didn't know the young lady's name. I said, well, what is your name? And she said, Charmaine, blah, 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 you know, and he says, is your grandma? I'm your daddy. Whoa. 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 So her and her husband at the time came to visit me here in Vegas, and we've never been apart. She ended up moving here, and she lives here today. You know, she ended up moving my nephew, my niece's son. I got a whole nother family that lives here today because of my mother saying, you need to get a relationship with your dad now. Okay, God, I see you. Okay, God. Maybe it might be time to trust this power that they keep talking about. Because, see, I'm always out on the outside looking for this power. I got to tell you another story. So we lost a daughter, 2 daughters. I know how it feels, Ruth. I lost 2 daughters to this disease. I lost a daughter right around the corner from my house. She was in a car accident. She had the kids in the car with her. She was drunk. She rolled the car down the embankment to the freeway, the 215, right in front of Aliante Casino. I was working in the Bay Area, and I got the phone call that she had passed, and the kids wanted me to come home. So I came home, and I stayed home for a little while, and we buried her, and we got these kids. We got 3 of them. Before that, we lost a son-in-law to this disease. He drank himself to death, 30-some years old. He had renal failure and became green. And he passed away, and my daughter went off the deep. I ended up having to go pick up her 2 kids, and now we got 5 kids in the house. And I'm asking God, like, what's this all about? Now I got to raise a whole bunch of kids again? No. I got to raise all these kids that ain't even mine. Why me? Why not you? Okay. You know, so now we graduate one of our granddaughters. She's doing so well, you guys. She's always calling me. This program, I gotta tell you. I'm so grateful today. You know, and now the other daughter, you know, she started having babies. You know, she's a heroin addict. She's started having babies. We got a phone call that we need to go pick up this little baby. I'm driving down the 215 screaming at God again. What are you doing? You know? So I'm talking to him. I'm talking, actually I'm yelling at him, like, what is going on here? Why are you putting us through this? Look at what you did to your parents, came to my mind. So I've had the pleasure of being on both sides of the coin. We've tried to put them in rehab, and we tried to do all these things when we tried to talk to them. We have all the information right here. Just read it. We're begging them, please, please. I go pick up this baby from the hospital. They tell us to come pick her up. She stayed in incubation for a month. She's addicted to heroin. And we bring her home, and I got to feed her methadone. And if you ever see any, so God shows himself again to me. You trust me now. My spirit is just yearning for this power, and I keep blocking it. I keep blocking this power. I keep blocking it because I'm mad. Again, Keith, I'm mad. Took my babies away from me, but he gave me some babies. He gave me some serious responsibilities. Took this baby home, and I feed her methadone, and now we got to wean her off methadone. And the whole time I'm sitting here thinking, what are the effects of this drug is it going to have on this child, She's a straight A student. She's bossy, She tells me about myself quite a bit, She's beautiful. She's so beautiful, you guys. Yeah. So she has another baby, and she's out there in Portland. She has another baby, and so we go through the process of trying to get that child. And we couldn't get it. We couldn't get her. Her name was Heather, named after the first daughter that passed away. So we couldn't get little Heather, baby Heather, and she got adopted out to a family. And we thought, well, this is the end. We'll never see this child again. And God says, let me show you. You are not God. God shows me again, we are best friends with these people. I was just on the phone with little Heather the other day. Papa, what are you doing? I'm not doing nothing. They come and see us every Christmas. We go down there and see them. We go to their parents' house in Utah. So I know their parents. Their parents take on fosters. These are different people. I'm like, who are these people? The mother's walking around with a foster baby. I'm like, why is she taking on all these kids? And loving on this baby, knowing that she probably can't keep it. God shows me who he is again. So I get this new sponsor, man, and I dive into the work. And, it's funny that it's July 9th, because I got with my sponsors about a couple weeks ago, and I said, sponsor, I got something to tell you. When my sister was sick, I was very, very angry at her, and I'm that guy that always came to her rescue. I always came after, to my sister's rescue. She was my baby. We were latchkey kids. We came home, it was don't open the door for nobody. Cook this hamburger helper. You feed her, you bathe her. You know what I mean? I was a latchkey kid. You know, both my parents worked, so I had to take on some responsibility. I protected her. I was her protector. I walked her to school. I walked her from school. I fought her battles. She fought mine. She was a little bitty thing, and she would, you know, you're not going to fight my brother. You know, this program has offered me a life that I never thought that I could have. Sitting in a room full of 40 men and some guys that came to, you know, be of service to the Samaritan house. I heard a message that had depth and weight, which I didn't take hold of it right away, but they planted the seed. So what started to happen, God started working on me. Gradually started working on me. If you would just trust me. If you would just trust me. You know, I started praying a lot more, started meditating a lot more. And what I understand today is I'm in a spiritual kindergarten. I just understood what that meant. The spiritual kindergarten. I'm on the bottom of this thing. I'm thinking because I have a few years that I got this. I got this. I just graduated. Another grandson. He's going to the Coast Guard. I graduated my granddaughter. You know, she wants to be a cook or something. So I said, well, okay, we'll go down to culinary. All right. I don't stomp on these kids' dreams like I did mine. I got a second chance. You know, my kids doing very well. I have a son that's in the military. He's Army. He just got married. He's getting ready to move out here to Temecula. He just got a little house out here. Me and my wife got to go and receive their furniture. Brought back memories when I was a military brat, you know, seeing the movers come and not having to do nothing. It was great because they did everything. And my parents didn't have to pay for it. Government did. I didn't understand that. You know, I got this, I have come full circle. I got another little, we have 13 grandkids. 13, ooh, come help me take care of some of these kids. It is the most beautiful, it's the best blessing of this whole program. And it was because of guys like Keith that told me, you just wait and see. You know, it's going to be a roller coaster. You're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days, but the good days far outside, you know, they far exceed the bad days. I'm retired, man. And guess what I'm doing? I'm a dice dealer at the Golden Nugget. I deal dice again, and I'm loving it. I got people screaming at me and hollering, and I just, okay. You know, I'm not easily bothered, you know, because it doesn't matter. It don't matter anymore. I'm having fun. You know, I didn't think I could have fun in this thing, man. Me and my wife have been halfway around the world together. We're Raider fans. I own Raider seats. Come on, bro. I helped build the Raider Stadium with my two sons. My two sons work for me. Come on, are you kidding me? Who does that? Both my sons work. Keith, are you kidding me? You remember when they were little? Running all over the place? Wow. I have a young son who I haven't seen since last year. I dropped him off down the street over here on Lake Mead. Dropped him off over there. Haven't seen him since. He's in the throes of this disease. But what's different today is I have a message. I'm not going to beat him over the head with it. You know what I mean? You know, whatever it takes, because he's prayed up. Because that's what my grandmother told me. She says, you're prayed up. Remember all those nights, 4 times a night, every night, I would come home off a binge and the lights would be off and I'm going, oh God, they're praying again. Thank God. Thank God them old women prayed for me. And they also kicked me out of my grandmother's house too, so. Them and my mom, she was the ringleader. I have a life beyond my wildest dreams, you guys, and it's all because of this program, and it was all because I sat in a chair just like you. It was all because I don't have to be king of the retards. I came in here, you know, wanting what you wanted or what you had, you know, all the stuff. And what I found here was a spiritual program and all the, because I got to tell you, I've made some money. Money was never my problem. It was never my problem. It was keeping it, you know, doing right by it. Sober. I've lost houses. I've lost cars. Sober. I've lost jobs. Sober. I like to fight, you know, sober. Oh, argue sober, you know. It wasn't until I started getting into this work and understanding that this is not about none of that stuff. This is about finding a power that's greater than yourself and stop looking outside for it because it's deep down inside of me. And all I have to do is go deep down inside of myself and get with this power. But there's a critic in there too. There's a critic in there. He's in there telling you, oh, you're not good enough. Oh, they're talking about you. Oh. But see, I got to go inside with him too. And I got to watch it. That's what my work tells me to do. I got to watch it. So I do some things that help me with this critic, with this thing that keeps telling me things, that my thinking has to change. That's what I found out about around here. And I had to get this power, like I said, that's deep down. I had to go inside of myself because I was always looking outside. I say that again, right? Because I had to pound it into my head that the power's right here inside of me. Every time I walk past that mirror, I see it. But I got to trust it. Not only see it, not only go in there, but I got to trust that this power has got me on a daily basis. So what do? Every morning I connect to this power. I connect to it because see, I wake up and I got a problem that tells me I don't have it. Tells me every day on a daily basis, you ain't got it. You ain't got to pray. You don't have to meditate. Tells me that. Even when I forget, and I really don't forget. I don't want to, right? So I have to, just like I force myself to go to the gym, I have to force myself onto my knees. And I got to put my face to that carpet. I got to humble myself before this power that's inside of me. I got to go inside because it quiets. Something happens. It quiets. Once I practice, there it is again. Once I practice this thing and I start understanding that I can get rid of this, that want. I mean, just that constant. Because what they say, it gets worse. This thing progresses. It gets worse before it gets better. It gets worse up here. So I got to go in even deeper. Thank God for sponsorship. My sponsor is so awesome. I love him, you know. And check this out. I got more time than he does. There's God again. You know, I want to thank you guys for having me come out tonight. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. Thank you for sharing before me because you told my story. You know, I hope you guys got something out of this, you know, because I know I did. And I want to thank you guys. And thank you guys from Chino. Welcome. You know, that's all I got. Thank you.